Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, and today we're going to talk about UFC 324, Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. And my friends, it's going down in 2 weeks live at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. We got the highlight. Justin Gaethje, one of the most exciting fighters to ever do it, taking on the streaking and undefeated in the UFC, Paddy Pimblett, for the interim UFC lightweight championship. Ilia Topuria, he's dealing with a legal battle, and you know we got Ilia Topuria's back on that one. And as soon as he comes back, he's probably going to fight the winner. I mean, I hope so, but the winner could also find himself in a matchup against Arman Tsarukyan. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the lightweight title picture plays out. I want to wish y'all a very, very happy new year, and I know y'all are eager to talk fights. Well, guess what? So am I. So let's not waste any time, my friends. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's get down to business. Because in this main event, we got Justin Gaethje, he's 26-5, taking on Paddy the Baddy, who's 23-3. Currently, they got Paddy Pimblett as a -230 favorite with the comeback on Justin Gaethje at +195. So Gaethje's 6 years older at 37, an inch taller at 5'11", but it's Paddy Pimblett that's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage in this spot. So absolute banger for the first main event of 2026 for the UFC interim lightweight championship. And I know a lot of people really wanted to see Ilia defending the belt. A lot of people want to see Arman Tsarukyan in a championship setting, and I completely get it. But this is the fight we got, and this is the fight we're going to break down. So, my friends, when you're talking about Justin Gaethje, you're talking about one of the most exciting fighters, not just in lightweight history, but in the history of the sport. This guy's absolutely devastating. I mean, those leg kicks, he chops guys down. And I remember that first Dustin Poirier fight, the one where he actually got knocked out. And Dustin Poirier was talking about the kind of damage he had in his quad from taking all those leg kicks from Justin Gaethje. And you start to drop your hands because you get kicked down low. Then he can go upstairs with some big bombs. One thing about Justin Gaethje is he's got knockout power in both hands. And for his standard, he's been developing his boxing a bit. I mean, like, look, he still likes to go balls to the wall and brawl and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm saying is he has developed a bit of a, functional jab. And I think that fight against Tony Ferguson was a big turning point for Justin Gaethje. And what was interesting about that, Dustin Poirier actually called him out on it. Do y'all remember when Justin Gaethje won the interim lightweight championship and he just threw it on the ground? Like, he's like, this doesn't even count. And Dustin was like, dude, like, tons of people would kill for the opportunity to have a lightweight championship, let alone an interim one. I mean, hey, it's still a piece of the belt. I mean, like, you're going to have a belt on your mantle that says UFC champion. I mean, I don't think too many people care about if it's interim or not. And back in the pay-per-view era, you'd still get pay-per-view points with an interim belt. So a UFC championship belt is a UFC championship belt as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, man, Justin Gaethje is a very, very dangerous fighter. And they talk about how as you age, speed is the first thing to go, but power is the last thing to go. And luckily for Justin Gaethje, he was never the fastest guy anyways, but he's always been an extremely heavy hitter. So I think that although he's aging, although he's kind of towards the end of his career, he's got a style that as long as his durability holds up, he can still compete at the highest levels of the lightweight division. Now, on the other side with Paddy Pimblett, he's a guy that's consistently overlooked and honestly a bit underrated. People call him overrated, but I actually think he's a bit underrated, man. I mean, I know he's got the look and he's got this hilarious personality. I mean, you hear the guy talk. He's funny as hell, but he can fight his ass off too. Look, I know it's not the most orthodox thing in the world. He sometimes keeps that chin up in the air, and because of his long hair, when he gets cracked, the hair goes flying, so it might look a certain way, but the guy is durable as all hell. He's aggressive. He's got the heart of a lion, and I can confidently say that Paddy Pimblett is improving fight to fight. I don't think this guy's gotten worse. I think this guy's gotten a lot better, and his skill keeps on increasing as the level of competition rises. So that's something you like to see. And I truly believe that Paddy Pimblett has paid his dues and earned this opportunity against a legend like Justin Gaethje. I mean, when you run through Bobby Green and Michael Chandler the way that he did, I mean, what's the next logical step up in competition? What I said was it has to be someone like Justin Gaethje, like Dustin Poirier, like Charles do Bronx Oliveira. Well, Dustin Poirier retired. Charles do Bronx Oliveira is fighting Max Holloway for the BMF title. So that only leaves Justin Gaethje. And I'm glad the UFC agreed with me and made this matchup, because at this point in Paddy Pimblett's career, this is the ultimate test for him. And in addition to that, this is a number one contender fight. So, I mean, I say that number one contender fight, it's an interim championship is what it really is. But what I mean is whoever wins this fight is either facing Ilya or Arman for undisputed gold. So yeah, high stakes on the line. But one thing about Gaethje, he's got that D1 wrestling background, but he has been submitted inside the octagon more than once. And one thing about Paddy is he's very deceptive, especially when he takes your back or he's in full mount. The guy's heavy on top. The guy's slick with his jiu-jitsu. And like I mentioned earlier, he's super, super durable. So although I do think that there's going to be some openings for Gaethje to get off on that leg kick and maybe even land some bombs up top with the way that Paddy Pimblett stands. He's got his hands down. He's got his chin up. But I also think there's a scenario where Paddy Pimblett can time one of Gaethje's big kicks and hit him with something down the pipe, maybe a hook, to the back of the ear, the temple, something like that. And we've seen Gaethje wobble in a lot of fights, even fights that he wins. And, back in the day, before Gaethje was in the UFC, back when he was the World Series of Fighting champion, WSOF is what PFL was called before they were called PFL. And Justin Gaethje was the champion there. One thing we would always mention is that Justin Gaethje gets rocked every single fight. Now he's 37 years old, taking on a young stud. And I have to believe that that trend continues. I think he's going to get rocked in this fight. Yes, I do think he can dish out some damage to Paddy Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett is hittable. Paddy Pimblett is very, very confident in not just his ability to give it, but to take it too. So yeah, I think there's going to be some damage dished out by Gaethje, but I also think that Paddy Pimblett's going to return that favor and possibly finish this fight. So I'm going to go Paddy Pimblett to come out here, become the new UFC interim lightweight champion, and finish the legend Justin Gaethje in the main event at UFC 324. Co-main event of the evening for the UFC bantamweight title. We got the champ Kayla Harrison. She's 19-1, taking on the former champ Amanda Nunes, who's 23-5. Currently, they got a Kayla Harrison minus 210. The comeback on Amanda Nunes is plus 180. So Kayla Harrison's 35. Amanda Nunes is 37. Both women are 5'8". Nunes is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage at 69 inches of reach. So hell of a matchup. A lot of people really want to see Kayla Harrison get tested inside the octagon, and they believe that the way to do that is to bring Amanda Nunes out of retirement and to match them up. And I completely get it. I mean, Amanda Nunes is the most dominant women's champion we've ever had inside the octagon. More dominant than Rousey, more dominant than Cyborg. I mean, in fact, Amanda Nunes knocked out both Cyborg and Ronda Rousey in the first round. So I don't think there's any debate about that. Now, Kayla Harrison, what a lot of people fail to remember is that a lot of her past accomplishments outside the octagon were actually at 155 pounds. So she started her career in PFL and she was winning belts at 155, at 145. Now she comes to the UFC, she's fighting at 135. So it's truly a scary sight to see. And one thing I got to say is, as long as Kayla Harrison can make the weight, she is going to be very, very tough to beat because her stand-up is getting better. A lot of people say she's only a grappler. And look, she's primarily a grappler. I mean, she's a grappler by trait, by heart, all that. But you must point out the improvements she's been making in her stand-up. Like I saw that little fainting game she's got going on in that last fight against Juliana. So I like the improvements from Kayla Harrison. I think that she's been staying more defensively responsible on the feet. And when she gets it to the mat, I mean, she is so dominant. I mean, we're talking about a judo Olympian, a judo Olympic gold medalist, no less. So that's the kind of caliber athlete we're dealing with Kayla Harrison. Now with Amanda Nunes, one thing that she really brought to the table in women's MMA is a lot of people make the reference that Amanda Nunes hits like a man. I mean, like I heard back in the ATT days when she used to train there that she would drop dudes in sparring, and I believe it 100%. So with Amanda Nunes, she's always going to have that danger factor. And one thing we talked about with our main event breakdown is power is the last thing to go. Now, with Kayla Harrison, like I said before, as long as she can make this weight, it's going to be really tough to see somebody come out here and beat her. And we're going to talk about that Larissa Pacheco fight that happened in PFL. That was her one loss. But the thing that people need to remember about that is that she had already beat Larissa Pacheco twice. I mean, they fought 3 times. Kayla won the first 2, and the third one was a really close fight, man. I mean, it was a 5-round fight. I definitely thought Larissa got 3 of those rounds, but it wasn't like Larissa just mopped the floor with Kayla or anything like that. And like I already mentioned, that was at 155 pounds. This is at 135 now. There's a massive difference. I mean, we're talking about a 20-pound drop, guys. We're talking about 2 weight classes below. So I really do believe this is the optimal weight class for Kayla Harrison. And the way she's been looking, I mean, she's looked unstoppable in the octagon. I know a lot of people say, well, what about that Ketlen Vieira fight? Well, firstly, that was a 30-27. Secondly, one thing about Ketlen Vieira is, look, Ketlen Vieira might not win every fight, but sometimes it can be tough to look good against Ketlen Vieira because for the most part, she's pretty defensively responsible and she's got some pretty damn good takedown defense, and Kayla Harrison was able to crack that, get her to the mat, and dominate the fight. Now, the thing about Amanda Nunes, like we already mentioned, the power is there, the aggression, and it was just really cool when she was coming up, seeing this aggressive of a finisher in women's MMA, because a lot of people were criticizing women's MMA, saying, you know, the women are boring, it's just judo throws to arm bars, you know, we want to see some good stand-up, and Amanda Nunes really brought that to the table in the UFC. So she's forever a legendary fighter. I'd say she's a future Hall of Famer. No, she's not a future Hall of Famer. She's a current Hall of Famer. She's already in the Hall of Fame, man. Like, to me, Nunes doesn't need this stuff, but I get it. She's been retired for 2 years. Where else is she going to make a 6-figure paycheck in 25 minutes or less? You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, come back for this super fight. I completely get it. You know, why not take this one last paycheck? And could you imagine if Amanda Nunes comes out here and gets this upset? I mean, she's already the greatest women's fighter we've ever seen, but if she can come out here and beat Kayla Harrison, she'll become a 3-time UFC world champion, which is simply unheard of, guys. I mean, who's the last 3-time UFC world champion that we've seen? I know there was one recently, but it's something that's a very, very rare occasion to not just be a 1-time champ or a 2-time champ, but a 3-time champ. Hey, Amanda, very, very impressive if you can do that. And even if you can't, the fact that you're coming back and giving it that old college try, I got to respect it. But here's the thing about this matchup that I really think favors Kayla Harrison. When you look through Amanda's run, none of these ladies are really attempting multiple takedowns on her. First of all, Amanda's last fight was in June 2023. So, I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention she's coming off a near 3-year layoff, a 2.5-year layoff, 37 years old. That already is not in her favor. But let's look at some of these stats, my friends. Against Irene Aldana, a 25-minute fight. Irene attempted 0 takedowns in that fight. The Juliana Pena rematch, another 25-minute fight. Juliana, who choked her out the first time, attempts 0 takedowns in the rematch. Like, girl, you choked her out. Like, why aren't you trying to take her down? You know, you go back to the first Juliana Pena fight. Hey, she actually attempted 1 takedown in that fight. And guess what? She got that 1 takedown and she choked Amanda Nunes out. So in the last 3 fights, there's only been 1 takedown attempt on Amanda, and it was secured, and the submission followed shortly after. Prior to that, Megan Anderson, I mean, come on, guys. Do I need to look at these takedown stats, or can we look each other in the eye with a straight face and understand that Megan Anderson is not a takedown threat? Okay, what about Felicia Spencer? Hey, all right, here I gotta give Felicia Spencer some credit. She attempted 7 takedowns on Amanda Nunes. Okay, so Felicia Spencer, the last one to attempt multiple takedowns. My friends, that was in 2020, June 2020. We're approaching 6 years since the Felicia Spencer fight. And let me tell y'all something else that you already know. Felicia Spencer ain't no judo gold medalist. You know, you understand what I'm saying? Felicia Spencer ain't no UFC world champion. I mean, of course, Felicia Spencer couldn't get those takedowns. Before that, Germaine Durandamy, my friends. Do you think Germaine Durandamy, the former kickboxing champion, attempted any takedowns? Nope, you're correct. She didn't. So, I mean, it's one of those situations. Holly Holm before that, no takedowns attempted. So the last time before Felicia Spencer, who was back in 2020, that attempted multiple takedowns on Amanda Nunes was actually Raquel Pennington back in 2018, my friends. Okay, so like we're approaching almost damn near 10 years from the last time. Well, I say the last time. Felicia Spencer was the last time, but the last time before Felicia Spencer was Raquel Pennington 8 years ago. So Amanda Nunes hasn't seen this look in a very long time. And I think that if that first Juliana Pena fight is any indication, I think that Kayla Harrison's going to stay defensively responsible on the feet. I think she's going to come out here, take Amanda Nunes down, and have her way with her. Whether it's a ground and pound TKO, which we've seen happen against Nunes before in the Kat Zingano fight, or a submission, which we saw Juliana Pena do against Amanda Nunes. I think that Kayla Harrison's going to come out here and she's going to defeat the women's MMA GOAT via finish. Now, one last thing I want to say regarding this fight is the odds. This is the first time in MMA history that Kayla Harrison is playable straight. Let me explain what I mean, my friends. When you scour through Kayla Harrison's odds history, minus 800 against Juliana Pena, minus 1100 against Ketlin Vieira, minus 450 against Holly Holm, minus 740 against Aspen Ladd. The fight she lost against Larissa Pacheco, she was minus 800, minus 3,000 against Martina Jendrova, minus 3,200 against Caitlin Young, minus 3,600 against Marina Mokhtartiana. You know what I'm saying? So minus 4,000 against Taylor Guardado. Like who are these people, man? You know? And the last two times that she fought Larissa, the first two times she fought Larissa, she's minus 1,600 the second time, and she's minus 1,250 the first time. So, guys, you've never had playable odds on Kayla Harrison until now. And I get it. It's Amanda Nunes. Oh, my God, it's Amanda Nunes. Guys, this isn't a prime Amanda Nunes. This is Amanda Nunes coming off a damn near 3-year layoff. Has already won the belt, lost the belt, retired, all that. I think this is Kayla Harrison's time to shine. I played her straight, and I think you should too. So best of luck to us on Kayla Harrison, and I'm going to pick Kayla Harrison and still the UFC bantamweight champion of the world. Featured bout in the bantamweight division, we got the former champion Sean O'Malley. He's 18-3, taking on Song Yadong, who's 22-8-1. Currently, they got it Sean O'Malley minus 190. The comeback on Song Yadong is plus 165. O'Malley's 31, Song is 28. O'Malley a bit taller at 5'11", is also going to have a 5-inch reach advantage at 72 inches of reach. So absolute banger in the bantamweight division. And I'm really excited about this one because obviously now that Peter Yan is the champion, both these guys want a rematch against Peter Yan. You know, a lot of people felt like Peter may have low-key got robbed against O'Malley. And then obviously the Song Yadong and Peter fight was super competitive and a very, very high-level bantamweight fight. So I know both these guys not only want a rematch, Yan, but they want to do so for an undisputed UFC belt. So that's why this fight is matched up. And I'm very happy with this booking because when you're talking about the former champion, Sean O'Malley, listen, a lot of people didn't think this guy would get to the belt. Similar to Paddy Pimblett, a lot of people were calling this guy overrated, a hype job, this and that. But the reality of the situation is that he beat everybody that was put in front of him. And when it was his time to get the big opportunity, he shined under the brightest lights. I mean, if you can go out there and knock out Aljamain Sterling in a championship setting, and we're going to talk about that fight in a second, but doesn't matter what my criticisms of that fight are. The facts are Sugar Sean O'Malley went out there and knocked out Sterling and won the belt, you know? And even though I may not necessarily agree with the Peter Yan decision, it was close, man. I mean, watching it back, it was a close fight. It really comes down to how you score rounds 1 and 3. Like round 2 is clear as day, Peter Yan. It's just about how you see rounds 1 and 2. So it's like there's an argument for a 30-27 Peter Yan. There's an argument for a 29-28 O'Malley. But either way, it was a hell of a fight. So then he gets that title shot against Sterling. First round, nothing happens. Second round, Sterling gets desperate to close the distance, and O'Malley, with a nice pull counter, puts him down. Defends the belt against Chito Vera, and then the Merab fight, the two Merab fights. Now, Sean O'Malley and his crew created this narrative surrounding the first Merab fight that, oh, he secretly won 3 rounds and it was his robbery and all this and that, which is absolutely absurd, because going back and watching that fight, it's low-key either 50-45 Merab or 49-46 Merab. You want to give Sean O'Malley the last round because of that front kick he landed the body, okay, I'll give him that. But besides that, what round did he win against Merab? And then in the rematch, you think like, okay, I've seen this guy once. Now I'm ready for this. And Merab just ran over O'Malley in the rematch. It wasn't even close. And I've seen kind of a timidity to O'Malley that I don't really like. And he's so reliant on people stepping out of position so he can counter them. But I have questions what happens when he's up against someone super durable like Song Yadong, who can match O'Malley on the speed and has just as much, if not more, octagon experience, because that's what Song Yadong brings to the table. Because when you're talking about Song Yadong, you're talking about a guy that's been in the UFC since he was just a kid. Now, I know there's been a lot of debates about his age. I mean, I remember when he came to the UFC and he was like 21 for like 5 years straight. Hey, now the guy's 28 years old and he's truly paid his dues. He's had his ups. He's had his downs. He's been in there with some top flight competition, and he still is hungry and eager to become a UFC world championship and at the very least earn that title shot. I mean, this guy's hungry. This guy really wants to prove that, hey, man, I can be the first male Chinese UFC champion. But in order for him to get that opportunity, he has to get past the former champ, Sean O'Malley. And listen, guys, I think that he's got the requisite experience necessary. I think he's got the style. I think he can come out here and compete with a guy like Sean O'Malley. I really genuinely do. Because how much more battle tested do you want a guy to get? How many more dues do you want a guy to pay? Song Yadong's done all that. He's earned this opportunity. I think he's ready. Like, he's been in there with Peter Yan, with Corey Sandhagen, with Cheeto, with all these guys. Like, I think he's ready for this opportunity. And one thing I really do not like is what I've been hearing from Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley's been kind of talking down on himself lately. Before it was, I'm the best in the world, I'm going to prove it, all these things. And now it's, you know, maybe I suck. If I keep losing, I'm going to retire. Anytime fighters bring up that R word, that retirement talk, I don't like that, man. So last week when Song was plus 200, I took a 1-unit shot on him. Listen, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I will tip my proverbial cap to Sean O'Malley and give him all the credit he deserves if he's able to come out here and pick apart Song Yadong or knock him out or something like that. But what I honestly think is going to happen is I think Song Yadong is good enough on the feet to compete with O'Malley. I think he can come out here, have a lot of success with leg kicks, and I think he can box with Sean O'Malley. I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but I truly, honestly believe that. I think that Song has the speed necessary to compete standing with a guy like O'Malley. Now, the thing about this is one of these rare occasions where Song also has the wrestling advantage in this fight. I mean, you saw that first round against Peter Yan. If you can take down a guy like Peter Yan and stay on top of him for a little bit like Song did in that first round, and that's Peter. Peter is super tough to take down and hold down. I think there's a good chance that Song can mix in all levels of MMA, all facets against Sean O'Malley. I think he can trade on the feet with him, and I think he can mix in takedowns, put him on the ground, come out here and just outwork him throughout the 3 rounds. I think in order for O'Malley to win, you're going to have to see a very gun-shy Song Yadong, a guy who respects Sean O'Malley's power and the pull counters and doesn't want to let it go. And if that's the case, then Sean O'Malley is going to win. If Song Yadong is simply like, man, I can't close the distance, I didn't like what I felt, then okay, then Sean's got a great chance. But I don't see Sean putting on the same volume against Song as he did against someone like, say, Chito Vera, who's quite literally a walking punching bag. I think that Song Yadong is going to be more defensively responsible, and I think he's going to have big counters waiting for O'Malley. One might even say he's going to counter the counter. But bottom line, I think this fight's going to be very technical while it's standing. I think it's going to be very close, very even. But where I think the deciding factor is, A, the power of Song Yadong, and B, his well-rounded approach. I really, truly believe that he can mix in takedowns and just have a complete MMA performance against Sean O'Malley. Now, is he going to finish him? I don't know about all that, but I'm thinking Song Yadong comes out here and wins a decision. So I know that's going to be a hot take. I know everyone's going to disagree with me. That's okay. But I took Song Yadong last week at plus 200. For those watching right now, I'm recording this on January 7th. So that's literally like 2 weeks before fight week, okay? So let's fucking go, Song. I think Song Yadong is going to come out here, get the biggest win of his career, and put himself in title contention. Next up in the heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Waldo, Cortes, Acosta. He's 18-3, taking on the Black Beast, Derrick Lewis, who's 29-12. Currently, they got it Waldo, Cortes, Acosta, minus 320. The comeback on the Black Beast, Derrick Lewis, is plus 270. So Lewis is 6 years older at 40 years of age. He's an inch shorter at 6'3", and he's got a 1 inch reach advantage at 79 inches of reach. I have to keep it a buck with the fans. I have to battle just like I always do. I can't call either of these guys fights to save my life. That's just the honest truth. But we're going to break it down and we're going to give it our best try. Because when you're talking about Derrick the Black Beast Lewis, you're talking about the UFC KO King. No one has more knockouts inside the octagon at heavyweight or any division than the man known as the Black Beast, Mr. Derrick Lewis. I mean, this guy renders people unconscious. He takes their souls away from them, and he's been doing it for a very, very long time. And as you know, power is the last thing to go, and his power still translates at 40 years of age. If you're not ready to stand and bang with a guy like Derrick Lewis, well, let me take that back. If you cannot take down Derrick Lewis and you're forced to stand and bang with him and you're not ready for that, oh my God. Not only are you going to hit the deck, but they're going to have to bring in the smelling salts. They're going to have to bring in the stretcher, the flashlight in your eye. And it could be a very, very devastating moment. But as a true knockout artist, of course, Lewis has been on the receiving end too. Live by the sword, die by the sword. Every great knockout artist has to be on the receiving end from time to time, and that's just the way it is. But another thing Derrick Lewis brings to the table is when people take him down, he's got this ridiculous get-up game. And it's like he'll be in bottom side control. He'll just bench press you off of him, man. And then when it's time to stand and bang, few men on planet Earth can stand and bang with a guy like Derrick Lewis. Just to put in perspective, Francis Ngannou didn't want to engage against Derrick Lewis. Alexander Volkov got knocked the you-know-what out against Derrick Lewis. So this guy can literally knock anybody out. Now, on the other side, with Waldo, Cortes, Acosta, you're dealing with a very athletic heavyweight. I mean, this is a guy that comes from a baseball background, and you can absolutely tell. I mean, the way he throws that right hand is like this dude is pitching a 99-mile-per-hour fastball. And now that he's got a lot of octagon experience behind him and he's really racking up those fights, you're seeing a level of comfortability that we haven't seen yet from Waldo, Cortes, Acosta. And now he's on that run where he wins this fight and one more, and you could be looking at Waldo, Cortes, Acosta being a title challenger. And it's quite impressive what he's been doing. And again, I got to keep it 100 with y'all. I've been calling this dude's fights wrong. I've been picking against this dude, and he keeps on winning. All this dude does is win. So it only makes sense that he gets this big opportunity against the Black Beast. And I'm very, very intrigued to see what he does with it. You know, I was on Ante Delia where I thought we won by first round knockout, and then we got knocked out. I mean, can y'all imagine the emotions of having an Ante Delia bet in that spot, man? Like, we thought we won. Then it's like, hold on, are we going to get a no contest? Then we lose. It's like, man, the biggest roller coaster of emotions you can imagine as a sports bettor happened in that Ante Delia versus Waldo Cortes Acosta fight. So, yeah, I do think that Lewis is live for a knockout, but here's my thing. So I've been picking against Waldo Cortes Acosta his last 3 fights. I'm 1-2. I got the Pavlovich fight right. I got the next 2 wrong. Now that I'm going to pick him to win is the time he's finally going to lose, right? Because with Lewis, it's like, I've thought that Lewis was kind of on his way out are done for a hot minute. It's like he'll go on a big skid, you start counting the guy out, then all of a sudden he'll start knocking people that you know what out against. So yeah, this is a tough one to call with the big boys. I definitely think someone's hitting the deck. Who will hit the deck? That remains to be seen. And when I talk in these terms with a minus 320 and a plus 270, it makes it sound like a dog or pass situation. And maybe it is. But like I said at the beginning, I'm just not that confident on this fight. I really am not, man. It's like if I pick Lewis, Cortes Acosta is for sure going to continue his win streak. If I pick Cortes Acosta, now's the time he's finally going to lose. So I don't know, but I'm going to go Waldo Cortes Acosta. He's got the momentum on his side. Seems like he's coming into his own. This is his big opportunity. He's got to be super hungry, but the Black Beast is always dangerous. So I would just proceed with caution before you lay this kind of chalk. But as a pure pick, I'm going to go Waldo Cortes Acosta to continue the run. Kicking off the main card in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Arnold Allen. He's 20-3, taking on Gene Silva, who's 16-3. Currently, they got a Gene Silva minus 210. The comeback on Arnold Allen is plus 180. So Arnold is the older guy at 32, the taller guy at 5'8", and he's got a 1-inch reach advantage at 70 inches of reach. So something that's interesting about this card and just goes to show how much the sport's progressing. I mean, just how much time is progressing is like, hey, Arnold Allen's the older guy in a fight. Usually Arnold Allen is the much younger guy. Well, now he's the older guy, which is really, really interesting. But the thing about this matchup is Arnold Allen, he's been doing his thing for a very long time. He's one of these kids. He's been in the UFC since he was like 21 years old. He's really paid dues. He had the long win streak, made it to a fight with Max Holloway. You know, he got set back and then got set back against Evloev in a very tough fight too. And now he's starting to make his climb back. Got that win against Giga Chikadze. Seems like he's brimming with confidence again. And now he's got a huge opportunity in front of him against Gene Silva, man. I mean, the winner of this fight is going to be in a very, very good spot in the UFC featherweight division. When you talk about Arnold Allen, I mean, he's known for being a point fighter for sure. But the thing about him is sometimes he turns up. Sometimes he goes into berserker mode at like if he hurts you like he did to Dan Hooker, or in like the last 10 to 20 seconds of a round. Like when this guy says F it, he will really go for it. So Arnold Allen is an interesting guy to watch. Also, his ground game is very on point. I mean, you think you're going to take this guy down and lay on him? Good luck with that, man. The takedown defense is there. The get-up game is there. He's just a really solid, well-rounded individual and absolutely a top 15 guy in the UFC featherweight division. He's a staple of the division. It's just a question of, do you think that he's evolving? Is he getting better, or has he kind of plateaued a bit? I think this fight's going to let us know the answer to that for sure, because one thing about Gene Silva, win, lose, or draw, Gene Silva is going to make you get into a fight. So I don't think that Gene Silva is going to let Arnold Allen have that kind of safe, pretty point fighting style battle that Allen is not necessarily used to having, but that Allen probably wants. Because when you're talking about Gene Silva, you're talking about an absolute madman. I mean, and that's no exaggeration. This guy barks on his walk to the octagon. He's a different cat, you know? And I talk about this often. You know, Gene Silva's biggest weakness is Gene Silva. Like, you look at that fight with Diego Lopez, and there were many opportunities to go out there and win that fight. And it seems like the guy gets in his own way. He's having a lot of success on the feet against Diego Lopez in that second round. Almost looks like he's walking him down at will and doing whatever he wants to him. And then he just gets over aggressive. Then he taunts a little bit too much. And yeah, this was a big setback against Diego Lopez. It's going to be interesting to see how he bounces back from it, because look, that first round he got dominated, but it seemed like, hey, you weathered the storm. Now in the second round, you're really picking him apart. And he just walks into this ridiculous spinning elbow, and he couldn't recover from it. So the thing about this matchup with Arnie is, if Gene Silva is disciplined, I think Gene Silva is going to be a very, very tough dude for anyone in the featherweight division to beat. But it's like when Gene Silva starts messing around, starts getting cocky, starts putting his hands down, starts putting his hands down and taunting you, that's when some bad stuff can happen. I even said this stuff before he had the setback against Lopez, that I'd say stuff like, as long as this guy doesn't fuck around or get in his own way, he's probably going to win this fight. And I believe that to be the case here against Arnie too. I mean, I think Gene should be favored, but when you're talking minus 210, and I kind of have a bit of a trust issue with this guy because I don't know what's going through this guy's head. I don't know if this guy's going to be barking in the middle of the fight, if he's going to be like, hey, Dana, look, like, dude, when he was fighting, I think it was Bryce Mitchell, I believe he felt no threat from Bryce Mitchell whatsoever, especially in the stand-up. So Gene was able to mess around in points like that. You remember the big spinning kick from Mauricio Hufi, his former teammate, against Bobby Green. Well, Gene Silva, he's fighting Bryce Mitchell. He looks into the crowd. He sees Mauricio Hufi sitting front row. He's like, hey, Mauricio, look. And then he throws a spinning kick. And it's like, look, that stuff is fun. It's cute. You can get away with that against a bum like Bryce Mitchell. But against Arnold Allen, who's as technical and as experienced as he is, I'm not saying that Gene's not going to get away with it. I'm just saying at minus 210, I'm probably good on that. It's a dog or pass situation. I'm going to pick Gene Silva to win this fight. But of course, it's contingent on how disciplined and serious he is inside the octagon, because Arnold Allen is no pushover. Arnold Allen is experienced. Arnold Allen comes to fight. Arnold Allen is no slouch. So I'm very, very intrigued by what's going to happen here. But I do think that Gene Silva, I think his power can be a big difference here. I think his shot selection, it's just, dude, can you stay disciplined and not fuck around? Like, I don't know if he can or can't. That's why it's not a bet for me. It's a pass for me. But pure pick, I'm going to go Gene Silva to come out here and defeat Arnold Allen. If you're looking for a sports book that doesn't limit winners or play games when it's time to get paid, then you need to check out my friends at bet105.ag. Super high limits so you can get down whatever you want on any sport. And when it's time to get paid, no KYC, no stupid games, no stupid prizes. This week, there's not UFC, but there's plenty of action on the board. On Thursday, for college football playoffs, they're offering minus 103 point spreads on the Miami versus Ole Miss game. On Friday, bet $300 on the Oregon versus Indiana game and get a $50 free bet. This weekend, bet $1,000 on wildcard weekend and get a $250 free bet. So my friends, go to bet105.ag, use my promo code HalfTheBattle, deposit $100 and get a $50 free bet at bet105.ag using my promo code HalfTheBattle. Now let's get back to the show. Next up in the light heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Nikita Krylov, he's 30-11, taking on Modestas Bukauskas, who's 19-6. Currently, they got it Modestas Bukauskas minus 190. The comeback on Nikita Krylov is plus 165. So Nikita is the older man at 33 compared to Bukauskas 31. Both men 6'3". Nikita's going to have a 1.5 inch reach advantage at 77.5 inches of reach. So very, very interesting fight in the light heavyweight division for a variety of reasons. I mean, if this fight was happening 2 years ago and you saw these odds, you'd probably look me in the eye with a straight face and laugh because, of course, before Nikita Krylov's current run, this guy would not just be favored to beat Modestas Bukauskas, but he'd be a large favorite in this spot. So now it's a question of, is Nikita Krylov truly washed, or is this simply a market overcorrection? That's the big question here. Because when you're talking about Nikita Krylov, you're talking about a serious finisher. On the feet, on the mat. This is a guy that can go out there and get the job done in every single facet of MMA. He's the true definition of a kill or be killed fighter. I mean, we're talking about a guy in 41 professional fights. He's got 12 wins by knockout, 16 wins by submission, and he's only been the distance 4 times. So that is what you call a kill or be killed fighter. And we love Nikita Krylov as a result. I mean, when this guy first came into the UFC, they called him Al Capone, I mean, because he fights like a fucking gangster. That's why, now he's the minor. And yeah, just a lot of respect for a guy like Nikita Krylov. He's been in there with all the best guys in the division, always a tough out. And it seemed like he was getting close to finally securing his first UFC title shot when he beat Ryan Spann. But after that fight, he took a significant layoff, and I believe he had a shoulder surgery. And since he's come back for the first time ever in his career, he's gotten knocked out in the first round twice in a row. And this guy's never even been stopped by strikes before in his career. Now, someone's going to be like, what are you talking about? What about that Soa Palele fight? Guys, I was around for that fight. I remember that fight, but he didn't get knocked out in that fight. He got stopped, but it was a ground and pound TKO, more of an exhaustion thing than a knockout. He wasn't knocked out in that fight. And what you got to remember about that Soa Pulyaev fight was that Soa Pulyaev, it was at heavyweight. Soa Pulyaev weighed 266 pounds. Nikita Krylov weighed like 217 pounds. So he was massively outsized, lasted to the third round and just got ground and pounded TKO'd. He couldn't get up. He was exhausted, but he didn't actually get knocked out. Well, now this man's got over 40 professional fights under his belt, big surgeries. He comes back, and it's not just that he got caught his last two fights against Dominic Reyes and Bogdan Guskov. It's when he was going for his signature blitz. He's got this really nice karate blitz where he starts with punches and he goes with kicks up top, and he's really tough to deal with. He overwhelms guys at his best. Man, the way he was closing the distance, he just looked so slow and labored. I'm like, are we sure that's Nikita in there? So yeah, it really hurts my feelings that Nikita Krylov is probably washed. I know he's only 33, but what you got to understand is 40 plus pro fights, and this guy has been fighting over 10 years. He's been doing this thing for a long time. I mean, his first UFC run was in like 2015. You understand what I'm saying? Now, on the other side, with Modestas Bukauskas, he's had quite the career turnaround because he started his UFC run at 1-3, right? And like he's fighting guys like Jimmy Crute and Khalil Roundtree only a few fights into his UFC career. He simply wasn't ready back then. He gets cut from the UFC, goes to Cage Warriors, wins a belt, and then he comes back and like all of a sudden, I mean, I'm not going to make any speculation, but I believe Modestas Bukauskas has either been having a fantastic strength and conditioning program, or he's been harvesting the Garden of Life fruits and vegetables, because physically speaking, he looks completely different. But I heard an interview with him and he was like, listen, I mean, I got cut from the UFC when I was 27. Now I'm like in my early 30s. I'm a completely different man. It's like, okay, that kind of makes sense. And he's a guy that, his dad was a fighter before him, but his dad was doing his thing before the UFC was really around. So his dad never got to fight in the UFC. And Modestas says that basically like his dad's kind of like living vicariously through him. He's accomplishing the things that his dad couldn't do. So that's really cool. And when you see the current run, I mean, the guy's won like 5 of his last 6 of his last 7. Like, it's very, very impressive. Now, I don't quite think he won that Iwan Cutelaba fight. I kind of low-key had it 29-28 Cutelaba, but it was definitely a competitive fight. I will give him that. And he also beat Paul Craig, tough out, a dude that finished Krylov in the first round. So like, he's been doing exactly what he's supposed to do. He's getting the results. And now he's got his first top 15 showdown. And this is not going to be an easy fight because Nikita Krylov, even if he's washed up, one thing I know about Nikita Krylov is he's going to get in there and make you fight. So, of course, there's a chance that even though Bukauskas has all this momentum, he could still get caught in this fight. Because one thing about Krylov, what did I say? I said he's a kill or be killed fighter. So if he's not getting killed, he's going to be doing the killing. And Bukauskas has been laid out more than once. So you can't write off that possibility. But that being said, I think that if you're looking at the screen, if you're listening at home, watch on YouTube real quick. Krylov was up here and Bukauskas was down here. Now it's starting to kind of, the playing field starting to even itself out a little bit. And I think that although Bukauskas, there's definitely a ceiling on how far Bukauskas is going to go. Like, I don't project this guy to be a top 5 guy or anything like that. But I think that this being his entry point to the top 15, he's simply catching Nikita Krylov at the perfect time. And I think he's going to get past this one. I do. I think he's going to come out here and actually knock out one of my favorite fighters in Nikita Krylov. Like, I would have never expected these odds 2 years ago. But the thing about that is it's not 2 years ago. It's 2026. We can only go off the current form. I'm not going to go off Nikita, who was going life and death with Ankalaev, because you guys know how long ago that fight was? That was in 2021. I know 2021 doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but guess what, guys? That was 5 years ago, half a decade ago. Time moves super fast, and Nikita simply hasn't looked like himself. And I don't know why I should think that all of a sudden this guy's going to get back in prime form. Look, I get it. He's coming off 2 back-to-back knockout losses in the first round. So I'm sure Nikita's hungry. He's desperate to get back on the win column. But once your chin goes, once your speed goes, it's hard for me to see him reclaiming it, especially with all the injuries, the surgeries, this and that. And Bukauskas, I think he's brimming with confidence. So like I said, I think there's an obvious ceiling for how far Bukauskas can go at the top of this division. Right place, right time, right opponent. I think Bukauskas comes out here, gets the biggest win of his career, and for the first time becomes a ranked UFC light heavyweight. Give me Modestas Bukauskas for the win. Next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Umar Nurmagomedov, he's 19-1, taking on Deiveson Figueiredo, who's 25-5-1. Currently, they got it. Umar minus 2,000. The comeback on Deiveson is plus 1,000. You got to lay 4K to win $200, my friends. Umar is 8 years younger at 30 years of age, 3 inches taller at 5'8", and a 1-inch reach advantage at 69 inches of reach. So younger, taller, reach advantage, minus 2,000 favorite. I mean, what else is there to say, right? But no, I have so much respect for Deiveson Figueiredo, because when you're talking about Deiveson, you're talking about a guy that brought violence back to the flyweight division. I'm always going to be grateful to Deiveson Figueiredo for what he did to the flyweight division, because I remember when there was a champion who ducked the biggest fights, who didn't want super fights, who opted to fight Ray Borg instead of TJ Dillashaw. And then you saw Henry Cejudo fight TJ Dillashaw. You saw how he handled him. And you wonder, I mean, why didn't DJ want that TJ fight? He opted to fight Ray Borg instead. So, we had a champion that had zero business sense, or, and yeah, you get the deal. So when Deiveson came to the flyweight division and became champ, it was such a breath of fresh air, man. Just having violence back, having a champion that'll fight all comers and, doesn't, run from the tough fights, doesn't pick and choose in his opponents. So I'm so grateful for Deiveson. Dangerous on the feet, dangerous on the man. First man in UFC history to drop Marlon Chito Vera. So, yeah, Davison's the man. He moved up to 35s. He's been doing his thing at 35s, man. I mean, he's had some really good wins in this weight class. So, Davison's style, for being a guy who's known for his power, we talk about it. Power's the last thing to go. I feel like he's been really impressive at this weight class. Now, there is a clear ceiling for him because he is a flyweight, and then bantamweight in 2026 is a completely different animal. But in that last fight, he had all the physical disadvantages against Montel Jackson. He had Montel Jackson shook. I mean, Montel Jackson was scared to throw a punch, which you rarely see from a guy like Montel. So you have to give Deiveson credit for his experience, his presence inside that octagon, the threat that you shoot a bad takedown, this guy can dangle off your neck. You leave your chin exposed, this guy can crack you. Davison's still a dangerous fighter. Now, on the other side with Umar Nurmagomedov, you're just dealing with a very, very talented individual, someone who just seems like one day they're going to touch UFC gold. It almost seems like destiny. Now, is it going to actually happen? That remains to be seen, but I think that if that minus 2,000 price tag is any indication, he gets past this, he's going to be right up there for a title shot. And that last fight he had against Mario Bautista, it was a tough fight, but guess what? Mario Bautista is a very, very tough opponent. That's not an easy fight for anybody. And Umar overcame adversity just like he did against Bezka. This guy's actually been dropped more than once inside the octagon, and every time he's overcome the adversity and come back to dominate those fights. The only time we've ever seen someone have some kind of extended success against Umar was, the last 3 rounds against Merab. But at the time, Merab was looking like one of the most dominant champions in UFC bantamweight history. It was simply his era. But like I always talk about, no one's exempt from that first L unless your name is John Jones or Habib. And if they stick around long enough, they'll take their first L's too. Umar took his first L, bounced back against Mario Bautista, who was a super tough out. And now he's got the former flyweight champion, the future Hall of Famer, Deiveson Figueiredo, in front of him. And I simply think that Umar is going to come out here and outwork Deiveson Figueiredo. I don't know if he's going to get a submission, a ground and pound TKO, unanimous decision. I don't know. But I do think the minus 2,000 favorite is going to win. I know it doesn't take a rocket scientist to predict that. Now, as far as betting is concerned, it's a dog or pass situation just by default. I mean, how much value is a minus 2,000 going to add to your parlay? Not much. I mean, just to put in perspective, if you parlay Umar Nurmagomedov and Kayla Harrison, it's barely going to get you under minus 200. So it's what is the point? So I think you pass or you take a small shot on Figgy, but I don't think Figgy's going to win. I think Figgy's going to get dominated. It's just at these odds. So I guess you look at the props, but the market is sharp, bro. It's minus 2,000 Umar. They're not going to, the books are not a charity. Let me just tell you all that. So I would just pass on this fight altogether. Or if you're feeling, you want to take a little gamble on Figgy at these odds, I understand. But I think Umar Nurmagomedov comes out here, dominates the legend Deiveson Figueiredo, and possibly secures himself another UFC title shot. All right, real quick. We went up over 130 units in 2025 in the Home of Fight Picks Discord. And we're doing something crazy for the listeners of Half the Battle for the UFC's comeback. Home of Fight is going to give you 30 days for free. That gets you both UFC 324 and UFC 325. Completely free. All you gotta do, just click the link in the description to join the Discord right now and check out this awesome community for the next couple of weeks and then crush these parlays with us in 2026. And I'm in that Discord, so you can come chat with me. Link is in the description below. Next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between the Half the Battle 2025 Rookie of the Year, Ateba Gautier. He's 9-1, taking on Andrey Pulyaev, who's 10-3. Currently, they got it Ateba Gautier minus 900. The comeback on Andrey Pulyaev is plus 600. So Ateba Gautier is 5 years younger at only 23. Both men are 6'4", but it's Ateba Gautier that's going to have a 2.5-inch reach advantage at 81 inches of reach. This Ateba Gautier is quite the specimen, isn't he? I mean, I can't recall the last time I've been this scared of a guy. I mean, I can't recall the last time someone's opponents have been this terrified of someone. I mean, you see the looks on these guys' faces before they fight Ateba Gautier. There's a reason they're running away literally the entire time. This guy brings that danger factor. He's a physical specimen. He's young as hell, only 23, and he's maturing every single time we see him. This guy truly is the limit for a guy like Ateba Gautier. And it's going to be interesting to see just how far he takes it. I mean, his regional scene, he was killing guys literally. Then on Contender Series, he did his thing. He got taken down and held down for a little bit, but these are the kind of lessons you learn from. And it's better to learn that lesson in a win than it would be in a setback, right? But in the UFC, look, he hasn't fought the best level of competition, but he's treated everyone very, very accordingly. Like this Medina guy had a reputation for just being like bulletproof. Like the guy's a punching bag. He can eat your best shot. Well, he couldn't eat Ateba Gautier's best shot. This guy, Robert Valentin, he also isn't the best either. Ateba Gautier treated him like he isn't the best, So this is a very intriguing matchup here with Pulyaev for a variety of reasons. One being that Ateba Gautier is brimming with confidence. He just seems like the kind of guy that his opponents are mentally broken before the fights even begin. And I'm honestly very curious if that's going to be the case with Pulyaev, because I actually do think Pulyaev is a big step up compared to the guys that Gautier has been fighting. This guy is way better than Medina, way better than Tristan Vines, and way better than Robert Valentin. I would favor Pulyaev against all those guys, and probably to finish them as well. Because when you're talking about this guy Pulyaev, very tall, very lanky, awkward, kind of goofy almost. And it's one of those situations where, I actually picked him on Contender Series. He was a big underdog, but like, I was trying to figure out, like, is this guy good or not? Like, I wasn't sure, but now I'm starting to think that, look, I don't think he's a future top 10 guy or anything like that. Let's not get crazy. But what I do think about Pulyaev is that he's a tough out. He's just a tough guy to deal with. That frame for the weight class, his durability, and he's one of these dudes that will take that ass whooping up front. And if you start to huff and puff against a guy like Pulyaev, he will turn up on you. And speaking of his durability, I mean, we all see how good CLD Christian Leroy Duncan has been looking lately. And Pulyaev lasted all 3 rounds with him. So, of course, look, I'm not going to pick Pulyaev to win. There's a reason Gautier is a minus 900 favorite. But what I'm actually super curious about is, can Pulyaev last over a round and a half And are there going to be big dog odds on that over 1.5? Because right now it's Wednesday, January 7th, as I'm recording this, a couple weeks before fight week. So the totals aren't out yet. I mean, I know it's going to be set at 1.5. I just don't know what the odds are, but I'm very curious if, over 1.5 is a big dog number. Like, I'm not saying Pulyaev is going to survive. I'm just saying, I think this guy is way better than all the people Gautier has been fighting. And he's also just a hard guy to find, a hard guy to read, an awkward body type to deal with, plus the durability. I'm curious if Pulyaev can run away for about 7.5 minutes, cash an over 1.5, and then I don't care what happens after that, right? But look, I agree with Gautier being favored. It's just there's no value at -900. But yeah, his physicality, knockout power, all that should be the difference here. It's just, when you're dealing with a 23-year-old who thinks he's God's gift to fighting and he's -900, I'm good on parlaying him. And I'm probably not going to take the shot on Pulyaev either. But if that over is a ridiculous number, that might be the way to look at it. But we'll see what happens ultimately. But yeah, my pick is going to be the -900 favorite Gautier to win this fight. And I'm very curious how he handles this this opponent who might not engage Gautier on his own terms. So this should be interesting. Next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Alex Perez. He's 25-10, taking on Charles Johnson, who's 18-7. Currently, they got a Charles Johnson -185. The comeback on Alex Perez is +160. Charles is 35. Alex is 33. Charles is 3 inches taller at 5'9", and he's going to have a 4.5-inch reach advantage at 70 inches of reach. So yeah, y'all know that I'm on a fade Alex Perez world tour. For real, for real. This guy's lost 5 of his last 6. He's been finished in 4 of those losses. And I question the heart of Alex Perez. I question the fight IQ of Alex Perez. I question his submission defense. Hey, Alex, if you want to come take my jiu-jitsu fundamentals class, it's Monday and Wednesday at Team Octopus. I'd be happy to help you. But in all seriousness, guys, Charles Johnson's had his ups, he's had his downs, but it seems like the guy's finally putting it together. He's got some great wins on his resume. I mean, we're talking about a guy in Charles Johnson who's got a knockout win over the current champion, Joshua Van. He also beat, top prospect Lone Kavanaugh. So Charles Johnson, from time to time, he will go out there and surprise you and beat some very, very high-level competition. So I think that Charles Johnson is one of these guys that, if he can just get out of his own way, because the guy's ego is massive. I mean, if you hear him talk, he acts like he'd be the best 5-round fighter in the UFC. My boy Cody Durden won all 3 rounds against him, by the way. He acts like the only reason he takes some of these L's is because he gets started too late and this and that. It's like, bro, to make it to the 5-round fights, you got to earn that position. You got to win these 3-round fights to do so. But the good news for him here against Alex Perez is that Alex Perez falls right into the style of Charles Johnson. What do I mean by that? Charles Johnson is a slow starter, but man, he'll go out there in that 2nd and 3rd round when he finds his range, he finds his timing, he puts guys away. And when you're talking about Alex Perez, it's the exact opposite. Alex Perez tends to get off to really good starts, and then he either has a mental lapse or he gets hurt or whatever the case may be, but it's an ongoing theme with Alex Perez that, hey, if you weather this guy's storm, if you stand up to the bully, there's a good chance that he's going to break. This guy will not overcome adversity in fights, and that's a big difference between him and Charles Johnson, because I've seen Charles get his shit rocked early in fights and then come back and really put it on guys, like that Alzat Maxim fight, like the Lone Kavanaugh fight. This has been like a recurring theme for Charles Johnson. Even the fight he lost against Temerov, loses the first 2 rounds. And then in round 3, I mean, Temerov's fighting for his life, and I bet Temerov in that spot. So while I think there is a chance it could be competitive early, I see Charles Johnson finishing this fight. I don't know if it's going to be a 1st-round knockout, a 2nd or 3rd round. I just think that the longer this fight goes, the more it favors Charles Johnson. And, looking back at this fight against Asu Almabayev, where I also bet Almabayev the exact same price, I bet Charles Johnson like -185, because like I said, my friends, we're on a fade Alex Perez world tour. And a lot of people thought that it was 2-0 Alex Perez going to the 3rd round, and then Asu Almabayev finished him. But if you actually look at the scorecards, it was tied 1-1 going into the 3rd round. So the narrative that Alex Perez was up 2-0 going into the third against Asu is fake news. He was not up 2-0 on a single scorecard, my friends. It was 1-1 on all three judges' scorecards. And then Asu Almabayev went out there. He wanted it more. He dangled off the guy's neck, which people have done before. And he finished the fight, most importantly. So I think similar things are going to happen here. Like I said, I don't know which round it's going to be in. I don't know if it's going to be a knockout or a submission. But what I'm wagering on is that Charles Johnson is going to come out here and eventually find the chin or the neck of Alex Perez. So whether Alex Perez gets knocked out or he quick taps for the millionth time, all that's good with me because I took Charles Johnson minus 185 to win one unit. And I really hope Charles Johnson doesn't have one of his letdown spots here, but I don't think he will. I think it's going to happen as he steps up in competition, but I think he's picking off Alex Perez at the perfect time. Like, dude, go out there. Hey, Charles, you crushed the grapes. Go drink the wine, kid. Go feast on the carcass. Go take out the remains and the ghost of Alex Perez. And he's got the perfect opportunity to do that. If he fucks this up, I don't want to hear any whining from Charles Johnson ever again, but I don't think he's going to mess this up. I think Charles Johnson's going to come out here and finish Alex Perez. Next up in the heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Josh Hokit, he's 7-0, taking on Denzel Freeman, who's 7-1. Currently, they got it Josh Hokit minus 230. The comeback on Denzel Freeman is plus 195. So Denzel is 6 years older at 34. Both men are 6'1", and Denzel is going to have a 3.5-inch reach advantage at 77.5 inches of reach. So interesting fight because you got two wrestlers here in Hokit and Freeman. Hokit, more of your traditional style wrestler in on the legs, whereas Freeman, he's like a Greco guy, lots of upper body type throws. Now, what I'm curious about is sometimes when you get wrestler versus wrestler, that cancels itself out and it becomes mainly a striking match. So I'm curious if that's going to be the case. Now, when you're talking about Josh Hokit, he's pretty athletic for heavyweight standards. He seems like a decent prospect. I'm kind of at the point where I just need to see a little bit more. Look, he's handled everybody he's been given accordingly, and I'm not going to take that away from him at all. Like, you've been doing your thing, and you've stamped yourself as a legit prospect. I'm just curious how he's going to do as the level of competition increases, not because I have any doubts about Hokit, but just simply because, he's had less than 10 pro fights. I just need to see a little bit more against better guys. That's really all it is. But I think the potential's there. And I like the performance he put on Contender Series. He really cooked that guy in the first round and then finished him in the second. And Hokit seems like a real gamer, a real competitor. And I know he's got his antics on the mic, but that's more so like, hey, let's get some attention on our name, man. Let's let people know who I am. And they do that. And that's how you get a fast track. So I think he's going about things the right way. Now it's just about how does he perform in this specific matchup? Because when you're talking about Denzel Freeman, this is a guy that paid his dues on his regional scene and also has a wrestling background, like I said, but it's a Greco-Roman background. And Denzel is one of these dudes that he's kind of tough to look good against, right? He's awkward. He's pretty well-rounded. Like I said, that wrestling background makes it tough to take him down. And he's not going to take big risks on the feet. I mean, like I said, from time to time, he's going to go out there and drop guys. But I'm saying overall, he's not going to really put himself in the kind of positions to leave himself exposed. So that kind of makes it interesting because some of these other guys that have been fighting Hokit have either had no defense or no fight IQ. They're coming in with the wrong game plans. And I'm really curious how Freeman approaches this because, like I mentioned, he's an awkward guy to deal with. He's not your traditional fat ass heavyweight. He's also somewhat athletic like Hokit, and he's got a similar level of experience. So yeah, I'm very intrigued by this matchup. And I get Hokit being favored in the sense that I think he's the better prospect of the two. However, how they match up, I'm very curious because I don't think, at least before the fact, that Hokit's going to have the same kind of ground dominance against Freeman as he does against mostly everybody else he fights. Now, that remains to be seen. I could be way off about that. Maybe he does have the same kind of ground dominance, but I'm curious how this fight plays out if it's a stand-up match. You know, I'm curious to see who's got the better stand-up between these two. Now, when you look at Denzel Freeman's only loss against Isaiah Pinson, you know, at the time, I didn't really hold it against him because Isaiah Pinson was also a prospect making a name for himself. But y'all got to check out Isaiah Pinson's last fight because it was one of the most embarrassing regional performances that I've ever seen, to the point where I was questioning if the shit was fixed. And y'all know me. I'm not going to throw around fight fixing accusations unless it's fucking Isaac Dulgarian or Derrick Minner or it's like the most obvious shit you've ever seen. But y'all got to check out Isaiah Pinson's last fight. Like, did he get injured? Did he throw the fight? Like, what exactly happened in Isaiah Pinson's last fight? Because that wasn't the guy that fought Denzel Freeman and took him to a hard-fought split decision on the regionals. And also, I know that Denzel Freeman's debut was one of the worst fights of the year, but I think that is, you got to attribute that to the fact that his opponent wasn't taking any risks. And Denzel Freeman is kind of like a counter guy, a counter grappler guy. So if you're not taking risks against him, he's not going to take risks against you. He's not going to really push the issue. You got to commit to him, which makes this an interesting matchup because Hokit's going to go right after Denzel Freeman. So I'm curious if Denzel is kind of put on the defensive or if he sees those openings to let things go. So this is a really intriguing matchup for me. I'm going to pick Hokit as a pure pick, but I get if people want to keep the bookies honest and take this underdog shot on Freeman. But yeah, this is one of my least confident picks on the entire card because I need to take a wait and see approach with Hokit. Like, I'm curious, is this guy the real deal or not? I haven't jumped to any conclusions yet. I'm keeping an open mind, and let's see who the better man is. But pure pick before the fact, I'm going to go Josh Hokit to win this fight. Next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Natalia Silva. She's 19-5-1, taking on the former strawweight champion, Rose Namajunas, who's 14-7. Currently, they got it Natalia Silva minus 450. The comeback on Rose Namajunas is plus 350. So Rose is 5 years older at 33, an inch taller at 5'5". Both women have a 65-inch reach. So kind of like a similar theme we were talking about with even Arnold Allen. You're used to Arnold Allen being the younger guy. You're used to Rose Namajunas being the younger gal. Not anymore. I mean, it's crazy how time flies. Now Natalia Silva is the one who's brimming with confidence, is on the up, has already defeated former champions, more than one former champion at that, by the way, and just looks so impressive. I mean, I can look you in the eye with a straight face and tell you right here, right now, on Half the Battle, I like everything about Natalia Silva. I truly believe that she's got the potential to be a future world champion. Because when you're talking about Natalia Silva, you're talking about someone that paid a lot of dues before she got to the UFC. So she's already had her setbacks. She fought good competition outside the UFC. So when she came here, she was ready to make her run. And she makes that debut against Jasmine Jasudavicius, who's a very tough out. And to handle Jasmine in this fashion, where you're stuffing all her takedowns, you're taking the wrestler down. I mean, what's not to like about Natalia Silva? You go out there against the most boring fighter anyone's ever seen, Teresa Bleda, and you make her exciting. You spinning back kick her in the face. I love everything about Natalia Silva against Andrea Lee. I mean, she beat the dog shit out of Andrea Lee. And you might look at me and say, yeah, well, Andrea Lee loses every fight these days. True. But she did a lot better against Macy Barber than she did against Natalia Silva. Let me tell you that right now. That Viviane Araújo fight was the closest fight that Natalia's had, and it was still dominant and clear for Natalia. Then you give her the biggest step-ups in competition she's ever had against Jessica Andrade and Alexa Grasso, and she tuned them both up in a way where it's like, all right, we're either giving you the title shot or we're going to give you one more fight before the title shot against a well-established name in Rose Namajunas, who's the biggest name she's ever been against, a former champion, someone that the fans, a lot of the fans love. And if she can come out here and not just beat Rose Namajunas, but beat her in impressive minus 450 fashion, you might be looking at the lady that's going to come out here and dethrone the great Valentina Shevchenko. Now, on the other side with Rose Namajunas, you're dealing with one of the most talented women's fighters that have ever lived. I mean, on the feet, on the ground, Rose Namajunas is good everywhere. Rose Namajunas' biggest weakness is Rose Namajunas. When she gets in her own way, She's had some hit or miss performances, but my God, when she is on, like, who can stop her? And you're talking about someone in Rose who knocked out the great Joanna, knocked out Zhang Wei Li. I mean, like, she's done some stuff, man. Like, and she's still going. I mean, I was at her last fight in Atlanta, Georgia, against Miranda Maverick, and it wasn't the best fight card in the world, but I got to tell you what, Rose put on a pretty impressive performance from my vantage point. And even that fight against Manon Fiorot, I thought she was a lot more competitive than I expected her to be, considering I bet Manon straight at like minus 185-ish, something like that. And I'm not going to say Rose gave me a sweat, but Rose performed a lot better than I expected her to. But Rose, I think, is kind of plateauing a bit, where people have kind of figured out her game. We know what she brings to the table. She's got fast hands. She's got opportunistic submissions, but what else does she have? And again, that's enough to get her to, a couple world titles, which is nothing to scoff at. But against Natalia Silva, we talk about Rose Namajunas having this big speed advantage against most of the ladies she's in there against. Well, that's no longer going to be the case. We talk about Rose Namajunas being younger than a lot of the fighters she faces. That's also no longer going to be the case. I also don't think that Rose is hungrier than Natalia Silva. And simply put, I think Natalia Silva is going to come out here and beat the dog shit out of Rose Namajunas and secure herself that UFC title shot against Valentina Shevchenko. And who knows, maybe she is the one to dethrone the great Valentina. That remains to be seen. But what I'm going to tell you right here, right now on Half the Battle, this minus 450 price tag, I know it seems kind of crazy. I know people are tempted to take the shot on Namajunas. I think Silva's going to cover this price tag impressively. I'm calling a 30-27 decision by Natalia Silva in this fight. Next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Michael Johnson, he's 24-19, taking on Alexander Hernandez, who's 18-8. Currently, they got it. Alexander Hernandez minus 190. The comeback on Michael Johnson's plus 165. So Michael's 39. He's almost 40. Alex is 33. Michael an inch taller at 5'10", and is going to have a 1.5-inch reach advantage at 73.5 inches of reach. Interesting fight, because with Michael Johnson, he's got a reputation for being one of the fastest lightweights on the planet. And in his prime, he's the guy that knocked out Dustin Poirier in a main event, beat Edson Barboza in Brazil, and he handed Tony Ferguson his first ever UFC defeat. Michael Johnson's known for having some super fast hands. Back in his prime, they used to call him Blackiao, like Manny Pacquiao. Like, the guy is known for going out there and throwing some serious leather. But what's his age? 39. He's going to be 40 pretty soon here. And we know that speed is the first thing to go. Now, on the other side with Alexander Hernandez, I'm not sure if I want to say it, but I'm going to question, is this guy finally putting it together? Here's why I'm asking. He's finally on a real win streak. You know that Alexander Hernandez has been alternating wins and losses since the Donald Cerrone fight? He's never gotten on a win streak. The only win streak he ever had in the UFC was when he made his debut against Beneil Dariush, and then he beat OAM. After that, he never got on a win streak. Now he's finally on his first real UFC win streak. He's on a 4-fight win streak. Okay, Alex, is he finally putting it together? I don't know, because I'm not willing to jump to conclusions, because when Alex Hernandez is the nail, he's not the best nail. And I mean, guys like Bill Algeo have beat Alex Hernandez. Guys like Austin Harmless Hubbard have made it to a split decision with Alexander Hernandez. So I'm not ready to say that he's back or he's this or he's that, because when you look at the win streak, he beat Austin Hubbard, not in the UFC, Kurt Holloway, not in the UFC, Chase Hooper, got to give you that win fair and square, and then Carlos Diego Ferreira, who's 40 years old. So on one hand, hey, you can't debate, this is the biggest win streak Alexander Hernandez has ever had, but when you put context, he could have beat those guys at any point in his career, minus Carlos Diego, because I think a prime Carlos Diego puts up a real fight against Alexander Hernandez. But that being said, there's something to be said about the confidence that comes with having the biggest win streak of your UFC career. You're fighting another guy who's about to be 40 years old, and Michael Johnson's known for his speed. But Alexander Hernandez is kind of fast too, and at least Alexander Hernandez is still on the relatively young side. So age favors Hernandez. Momentum, I'd say, favors Hernandez. I say that, but you know something about Mr. MJ? He's on the longest win streak he's ever been on in the UFC since 2015. And in 2015, we were talking about when he beat Joe Lozon, Gleison Tebow, Melvin Gillard, Edson Barboza. And that win streak spanned from 2013 to 2015. This guy hasn't put up, a win streak minus in 2018 against Andrey Fili and Artem Lobov, since then. Now he's on a nice little 3-fight win streak. But to put a little context on it, it was against Darius Flowers, which, Michael Johnson at any point in his career would beat Darius Flowers. Atman Azaitar, who we know has not been the same since that Fight Island incident. And then the Daniel Zellhuber fight. I can't take that away from you, but I do want to kind of mention that Daniel Zellhuber may have come back too soon after that Esteban Ribovics fight. Like, he took a sustained beating against Ribovics. One of those wars where, like, if you don't take the proper amount of time off, you're going to get hurt. You're going to get wobbled. You're going to take damage. You're going to not look like yourself in subsequent performances. And I think that's what happened to Daniel Zellhuber. But I'm not going to take anything away from Michael Johnson because he looked like, prime Michael Johnson. But that being said, Michael Johnson is one of those guys that can beat anybody and lose to anybody. What do I mean by that? Well, this guy knocked out Dustin Poirier, but he lost to Stevie Ray. This guy beat a prime Tony Ferguson, but he lost a split decision to Jamie Malarkey. Do you guys catch my drift? Michael Johnson can beat anybody. He can lose to anybody. Kind of reminds me of this guy, Andrey Fili. You know what I'm saying? So nothing's going to surprise me in this spot because Alexander Hernandez is not the most trustworthy guy in the world, but it's really tough for me to pick a 39-year-old Michael Johnson. So I'm going to go with Alexander Hernandez based off the momentum, but are you going to be surprised if Alex drops the ball? I'm not, but I'm going to go Alex to win this fight. Next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Ricky Turcios. He's 12-5, taking on Cameron Smotherman, who's 12-6. Currently, they got a Cameron Smotherman minus 190. The comeback on Ricky Turcios is plus 165. Smotherman 28, Turcios 32. Both men 5'9". Turcios has a 2-inch reach advantage at 71 inches of reach. So this is one of those fights where I'm going to just keep it 100 with y'all like I always do. Neither of these guys belong in the UFC, because when you're talking about Ricky Turcios, you're talking about a guy that's 2-4 in the UFC, 2-5 if you include Contender Series, and with Cameron Smotherman, 1-2 in the UFC, 1-3 if you include Contender Series, and this guy got knocked out by Harlampos Gregorio in 1 minute on Contender Series. Like, it does not get any worse than that. Neither of these guys belong in the UFC, but I really don't like Ricky Turcios. I hate watching him fight, like, with a passion. Like, do y'all remember that Amin Zahabi fight where he's just making noises the whole fight? Like, I just can't get behind fighters like that, right? Like, what is there to like about Ricky Turcios as far as, like, I don't know him as a person. Maybe he's a nice guy, so I'm not talking about him personally. I'm just talking about what is there to like about this guy as a fighter? Can someone let me know, please? Because I don't think he brings anything to the table that's UFC caliber. And I think Sean and Mick saw these two. They're like, dude, we got to get rid of one of these fucking guys. So why don't we put them in the octagon together? Losers going home, and then we never have to think about them ever again. Now, on the other side with Cameron Smotherman, he's got decent hands for MMA. That's about the extent of it. But the guy's got a suspect chin. His ground game is not there at all. So it's like, what am I supposed to do with this fight? I don't like either of these guys as fighters. I don't know them as people. I don't like them as fighters. And I don't think either guy's going to be in the UFC this time next year. The reason I don't want to flip a coin is because you're not going to catch me dead picking Ricky Turcios to win a UFC fight. So yeah, I'm going to go with Cameron Smotherman for that reason. But, like, this fight could go a variety of ways. Smotherman could knock him out. Turcios could choke him out. It could be this boring low-level decision. I don't know. I just know neither of these guys belong. And it's one thing to not belong but be exciting. But neither of these guys belong, and they've been involved in some of the worst fights I've ever seen. Well, one guy got knocked out by Harlampos Gregorio. The other guy's making, like, weird sounds against Amin Zahabi. I just can't with these two, man. But I'll pick Smotherman to win. Last but not least, kicking off the card in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Ty Miller. He's 6-0, taking on Adam Fugit, who's 10-5. Currently, they got it. Ty Miller minus 360. The comeback on Adam Fugit is plus 295. So Ty Miller is 25, which makes him 12 years younger than Adam Fugit. He's also an inch taller at 6'2". He's going to have a half-inch reach advantage at 77.5 inches of reach. So Ty Miller is younger, taller, has the reach advantage. The only thing he doesn't have is the experience advantage, you got to give that to Fugit. And Fugit's one of these guys that, like, I've disrespected him so many times. I remember when I picked that fraud Japanese Connor, and I thought he was going to smoke Fugit. Fugit straight up finished him in the first round. I remember I picked this kid, Josh Quinlan, against Fugit. Fugit edged that one out. Like, I count Fugit out like every single fight. I thought Michael Morales was going to kill him in like under half a round. He took Michael Morales to the third round. So, look, he's not very good. He's chinny. He's old, but like, he'll surprise you from time to time. I got to give him respect for that reason alone, you know? And with Ty Miller, he's a very bright prospect coming out of New Mexico. He kind of reminds me of his, I think, mentor. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong about that. But he kind of reminds me of like a young Tim Means, you know? Very sharp parrying game, good straight punches in the pocket, can mix in kicks, knees, elbows. He's violent. He's vicious. He's a mean guy. He's rounding out his game. He's getting the requisite experience. Like, there's a lot to like about Ty Miller. He's got a very bright future. But now he's taking on the most experienced guy he's ever fought, but he's fighting him at a great time. I mean, Fugit, like I said, 12 years older at 37. Chinny, I think that he may have, you know, he may have already outdone all his luck. You know what I'm saying? Like, making it to the third round against Morales, beating the prospects that he beat, and this and that. Hey, I give him a lot of credit for it, but I think it comes to a screeching halt 2 Saturdays from now at UFC 324. I think Ty Miller is going to be too sharp, too fast, too young, too clean, too hungry. And I think Ty Miller is going to come out here at UFC 324. I think he's going to knock out Adam Fugit. So I'm going with Ty Miller for that reason. So now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So my friends, what is the fight to watch at UFC 324? For me, my fight to watch has to be Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong. I mean, the stakes that are on the line. I mean, Sean O'Malley, he sees Peter Yan as champ. He's got a win over him, controversial or not. I know he wants to run that back, and I know Peter wants to run that back and get revenge. Song Yadong has been in the UFC a long time. He's never gotten that title shot. He's going up against a former champion. This is the opportunity of a lifetime, not to mention they're 2 strikers. They put on fan-friendly fights, and I think they're going to go out there and show the fans why I picked O'Malley and Song to be the fight to watch. So for that reason, it is my fight to watch. Now we got to talk about the fighter to watch. So my friends, who is the fighter to watch at UFC 324? And it's going to surprise you, but my fighter to watch is Charles Johnson. This is a guy that's been talking a big game. This is a guy that says he's the best flyweight on planet Earth. He's the best 5-round fighter in the flyweight division. Okay, well, if you want to prove that, here's the ghost of Alex Perez. Here's Alex Perez, who's holding up a top 15 ranking. I don't know why, but he is. And he's lost 5 of his last 6. He's been finished in 4 of those fights. Hey, Charles, go feast on the carcass, kid. You want to be in the conversation? You want to eventually get a title shot? Then you better handle Alex Perez accordingly. So all eyes are going to be on Charles Johnson. I want to see what he does with this opportunity. How are you going to treat Alex Perez? You going to treat him accordingly or not? Or are you going to whine about losing a close decision? So I'm very intrigued by that. So for that reason, Charles Johnson is my fighter to watch. Well, my friends, we did it. It's going down a couple Saturdays from now, UFC 324. Hey, thank you all so much for all your support. Happy New Year. Do me a huge favor. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave me a comment, and check this out. Once I hit 15K subscribers, good friend of the show, Malcolm Wellmaker, is going to donate a UFC 322 poster that's signed by the entire card. I'm saying signed by Islam Makhachev, signed by JDM, signed by Michael Morales, signed by Carlos Prates, Valentina, Zhang Wei Li, Malcolm Wellmaker, Ethan Ewing. It's signed by the entire card. Y'all get me to 15K subscribers, one of y'all is going to walk home with that poster. And I got to admit, I'm kind of jealous. I want that fucking poster. You know what I'm saying? So hook me up and I'm going to hook y'all up. Once I hit 25K subscribers, I'm going to give out a signed glove by UFC Hall of Famer Michael Bisping. So the incentive's there. You help half the battle grow, and I'm going to help your memorabilia collection grow. So that's a promise. I'm going to look you in the eye with a straight face. Y'all know my contest winners always get their prizes, and that trend's going to continue. So thank y'all so much for the support. Shout out to the GOAT Meticulous for all the unbelievable work he does behind the scenes, the graphics, the overlays, the highlights, the thumbnails, etc., etc., etc. You're the man, and the biggest shout out of all goes to the fans. Thank you all so much. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.